Hello, I'm Monique Bork with the Oregon Secretary of State's Office of Small Business Assistance. Today, I'm here talking to Daniel Jackson, who is a COBID Certification Specialist with Business Oregon. Thank you for coming, Daniel. Let's begin with a general introduction to COBID and to eligibility requirements.
Hello, and welcome to the Certification Office for Business Inclusion and Diversity. We are also known as COBID. We provide the certifications within the state of Oregon that encourage government to do business with small business. The certifications available fall into two main categories: federal program certifications and state program certifications. The federal certifications are the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Certification, as well as the Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Certification, DBE and ACDBE for short. Each of these programs has their own rules, and they apply to federally funded, state-enacted contracts. This is different than the state program certifications, which is the Minority Business Enterprise, Woman Business Enterprise, Service Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise, and Emerging Small Business certifications. These are state-funded programs that apply to state-enacted contracts. So the main difference between the two that is going to impact what contracts use these certifications is the color of money that's utilized to fund the contract that the goal or the target is assigned to that uses these certifications. Now, each of these certifications has its own eligibility requirements that are broken into different categories. To start with, the easiest to qualify for that has the lowest level of requirements is the Emerging Small Business Certification, because we review the firm as a whole in totality instead of the individual owner of the firm and the controlling ownership of the business. So we'll start there. With the Emerging Small Business Program, your firm has to be first for-profit and based in Oregon. With that being out of the way, then your firm also has to have revenue below a certain threshold. So the threshold is higher for businesses that are in construction than those that are in non-construction related fields. There is also a cap based on the number of employees. You can view these caps on the website by following one of the links below. The other requirement related to this certification is that your firm can only be in this program for up to 12 years. So if your firm has been certified previously as an emerging small business firm, you cannot reapply. If you have questions about the qualifications or the time limits related to the Emerging Small Business Program, please reach out by calling our main line at 503-986-0075, and we'll be happy to assist you by discussing the qualifications and whether or not your firm qualifies for the Emerging Small Business Program. For the Minority and Woman Business Enterprise programs, we look at the individual criteria of the controlling ownership of the firm, be it one person that owns the entire business or 20 where the ownership is split up in various percentages between different people. We look at who owns the controlling stake of the business. And at least 51% of the ownership has to be one of the qualifying categories for those certifications. So for the Woman Business Enterprise, the controlling stake of the business has to be controlled and ran by qualifying females. Qualifying female in this case means a U.S. citizen or permanent resident that directly has control over the core scope of operations and can control the direction of the business, up to and including expanding, making financial decisions, including being able to close the firm if you chose. For the minority certification, it relies upon the guidelines for what a qualifying minority group is according to the federal guidelines set out in 49 CFR 26 that governs the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise program that we'll be talking about shortly. With the minority certification, if a majority of the owners are qualifying minorities, you can look at applying for the minority certification. The woman and minority certifications are sister programs, meaning that if you have one certification, the benefits are the same as having the other or both. In other states, you'll find that these certifications are one certification, the woman and business certification. Here it's two separate ones, although you can apply for both. Having one of them qualifies you for the contracts that either or both would qualify for. The size caps for this particular pair of programs is higher and is currently set at a little over 26 million. You can see the caps in the link below that are updated every few years, so that way you can make sure that your business has gross revenue below the thresholds set out for this program. The Disadvantaged Business and the Airport Concessions programs are the two federal programs. These are also based on either being a qualifying female or qualifying minority. With these programs, they also have gross revenue caps that are based in the same statutes federally, so 49 CFR 26, that outlines how much revenue your firm can have coming in and still qualify as a small business. With the federal certifications, there is also the eligibility that we review your personal net worth. Since it is a means-tested program, we'll be looking at whether or not your personal income and your personal assets are below the threshold to qualify for the disadvantaged program. The general rule that's listed in the federal guidelines is that if you make over $350,000 a year based on a 3-year average, and that is you personally reviewing your personal taxes, or if your total personal assets, not including your personal residence and your business, are above $1.32 million, then you would be considered not disadvantaged for the purposes of this program, regardless of whether or not you are a qualifying minority or female, and the federal programs would not be for you at that point. The last state program that I did not mention is the Service Disabled Veteran Certification. For that certification, you can be either male or female, you can be any race, and if you have a service-connected disability due to your military service, you can qualify for the Service Disabled Veteran, or SDV program. For that, we will be requesting a copy of your DD-214 showing your discharge status, as well as a letter from the VA showing your disability rating. We need to see a disability rating of 0% or higher, which means that while you may not currently be disabled, they anticipate that you will be in the future. Common reasons for this include hearing loss. So even if you don't typically think of yourself as a disabled veteran, by all means, call and ask, and we can talk about whether or not it's a certification that you can benefit from.
What kind of documentation do you collect as part of the application process?
When you go to start your application for certification, whether you're applying for emerging small business, the woman and minority, service disabled veteran, or the disadvantaged business enterprise certification, there's going to be documentation that we collect for each of these certification processes. A lot of these documents are going to be the same that you would need to get together in order to apply for a business loan or any other business program. As you go through the application, there is going to be a list of the documents that you need to provide. I'm going to run through a quick summary of what to expect to see now. To start with, we are going to be looking for 5 years of business taxes. And that is so we can verify the gross revenue of your business that has been generated on an ongoing basis to get an idea of how big your business is and to make sure that our certifications are in compliance with state and federal rules. We look at a 5-year rolling average. That means that if you have 1 year where your gross revenue is higher than the threshold for the program, but over 5 years you're beneath it, you can still qualify. So even if you have one banner year, it's not going to keep you out of the program. We also collect information related to the qualifying owners, be it one person or 10. We're going to be asking for the same documents on each of them related to their qualifying status. So in this case, documentation that shows their citizenship, as well as either their stated gender on their government issued documents, as well as their nationality and their racial category. In this case, we would be looking at either a birth certificate and driver's license or a passport are the most common documents. If you are a permanent resident, you'll be providing your permanent residency card. If you don't have those available or you're not sure what documentation is required, just give us a call and we'll be happy to talk about any additional types of less common documentation that could be used to show either gender or national origin and your racial qualification. Also, other documentation that's going to be required, as I mentioned, for the federal certifications, we'll be looking at your personal taxes and having you complete a form called the Statement of Personal Net Worth, where you describe your assets. With those documents, you just submit 5 years of your personal taxes, and then you fill out the form and fill out an affidavit saying that you're being truthful about the assets that you hold. It's pretty simple. As usual, if you have any questions about completing it, just give us a call or send us an email and we'll be happy to talk you through the process. Other documentation that will be required includes information on contracts that you've completed. We'll be looking for a qualifying resume for the owners that are the qualifying individuals, as well as any required licenses for operations within the state. So if you are a lawyer or an engineer, we're going to want to see documentation of either you having passed the bar or holding your engineering license, respectively. This is true for any type of license ranging from construction to psychology. If you're not sure about license requirements, by all means, also give us a call and we can tell you who you need to be talking to in order to get the licenses to make sure that you are operating within full compliance within Oregon law. Other things we'll be looking for the minority, the woman, as well as the service-disabled veteran and the federal programs is contribution of capital and how you bought into your business. So if you bought the business or if you started the business yourself, we're going to want to see information on how you started that business. If you started the business 20 years ago and you don't have that information anymore, that's okay. Just give us a narrative of explaining the situation and why you don't have that documentation anymore, and we can work with you from there. When you get through the application process and you've attached all the documentation that you have, if something is missing, either call us up and ask about it, or you can attach a document saying that you do not have that particular document, and it's no big deal. We can just move forward from there. And once your application is assigned to a certification specialist, we'll work with you to make sure that all of the information is captured. And if there's anything we have questions about, we'll be following up with you personally via email or via phone in order to talk about your application and make sure that we give you every consideration for the certifications that you're applying for. Now, with that being said, I would highly recommend that you look at the second part of the documentation section, and there is a form you can download that allows you to mark what additional certifications you want to apply for. So you can apply for all of the certifications that you qualify for at one time. So you're not going back through and doing a different application each time for each additional certification. You only have to wait in line once, and we can get all the certifications going with the first application. Now, the application process can take between 60 to 90 days to complete, and that is from when we have all the needed information to make the decision about the certification. So if there's missing documents, we'll be in touch, letting you know what they are and helping you figure out what documentation you need to submit. And then from that point, about 60 days out, we should be able to get the review completed. The only other piece that I haven't mentioned yet for the federal certifications, the disadvantaged business and the airport concession certification, is there is a site visit that needs to be conducted. Sometimes these are done in person, sometimes they're conducted virtually, but it is basically an hour interview where we talk about your business and discuss the different aspects of your firm, what it does, its history, to really build a more complete understanding of your business in order to make sure that when we write the description of your firm and assign the codes that are needed for procurement to bring opportunities to your business for different contracts, that we are getting all of the services that you and your business offer listed within your certification profile.
What are the benefits of COBID certification for a business?
Once you're certified, then the question is, now what? What do you do with these certifications? So the first and most obvious benefit to certification is that it allows you to have a way to advertise that you are a woman or minority or veteran-owned firm that is operating within the state of Oregon, providing services, and that the government has vetted that you are what you say you are, so that way you can have that trust building element with your customers when you are advertising. I encourage you to use the number that is issued to you, which is your certification number, on your marketing materials, so that way someone from procurement can easily see that and cross-reference and pull you up in our database, which is updated live, so that way they can verify and see the services that you offer. The other benefits that are available is obviously being able to have additional opportunities for contracting. So for the federal certifications, the airport concessions and the disadvantaged business, there are goals assigned to these contracts. That means that it is a contractual requirement for prime contractors that have these contracts to utilize a certain dollar amount of certified subs on their contracts. And if they don't hit those goals, there are fiscal consequences for them. It is in their best interest to make sure that they meet or exceed the goals set for utilizing DBE and ACDBE firms within their specific contract. For the state certifications, specifically the service-disabled veteran, minority, and woman certifications, there are targets assigned to contracts. And those targets are aspirational, meaning that language is added to contracts saying that for this contract, we would like to see at least a certain percentage of the contract dollars going to certified firms. You'll see these targets applied from both city and municipal as well as state contracts. For the emerging small business, there are set-aside contracts for certified emerging small businesses. When you go into Oregon Buys and look at the different opportunities, you'll see that some start off with ESB and then the name of the contract. Those are contracts that only emerging small business firms are allowed to bid on. So if you are a certified ESB, congratulations, you're not going to be competing against large firms. It's just you and other small businesses putting in for typically these smaller single scope contracts that are under $250,000 in size, that ODOT and the other agencies that utilize these contracts have committed to paying within 30 days of completion of the work. If you have not done business with government before, A 30-day pay window is very helpful when it comes to making sure that you have the capital to pay your people and move on to the next job. One of the benefits also for service-disabled veterans is that there are contracts that have a different cap for SDV firms than for other businesses. When doing government contracting, most of the time the direct award threshold is 10,000 and under, where business does not have to be put out for bid publicly, but a government manager can just use their purchasing authority to make the decision. When selling or contracting with a SDV firm, that cap is not 10,000, but 50,000. So it provides a lot of additional opportunity for those direct awards where you're not bidding, but it really is tied into networking and getting to know the different procurement individuals that are going to be looking for your specific services. The other benefits, of course, to certification is that there are opportunities for training. So opportunities through the SBA, as well as through mentor protege opportunities, such as the program ran with the Port of Portland, where certified firms can be paired with larger primes to help you build your business and grow in a safe and sustainable manner. Also, you have access to programs such as GCAP, the Government Contracting Assistance Program, that will assist you with learning how to bid and how to write more effective bids for government contracts. There are other benefits, and we'll be happy to explain those, that are situational and change over time. And that will be a conversation to be had with the certification specialist that you're assigned to once you apply for the certification. Now, to get more information about our certifications, and if you have any questions, first you can start on this webpage with looking at the checklist that we have below that you can download, as well as looking at the chart that gives the breakdown of the different caps and requirements for each of the given certifications. If there's additional questions beyond that, and that can happen, especially if you haven't been through this process before, you can reach out either through our support link, or you can just give us a call. Once again, our direct line is 503-986-0075, and you'll reach a live person, and we'll be happy to help you answer any questions that you may still have about what the certification process looks like.
What are the 3 most important things you would want an applicant to know before starting an application for COBID certification?
There are 3 things I'd like you to know if you're thinking about applying. So the first is that it's a process. This isn't a simple check the box and you get the rubber stamp and you walk away type process. It is designed to really review every aspect of your firm to make sure that your business meets the qualifications for the certification and that the certifications are a good fit for your business. It's a process, and I ask that you just trust the process. Our certification specialists work with each other, and if there's any questions, we can have other experts brought in from other departments and industry experts to review application materials and answer any questions that may come up. Work with us, and we'll work with you. The second thing, benefits that come from certification are well worth the time. However, you need to utilize your certification by using it both as a marketing tool and using it to find opportunities for contracts. Just getting the certification and waiting for someone to come to you is not the recommended course of action, as that rarely brings business to your door. However, it is one more tool in your toolbox for finding opportunities and getting contracts with the government and making sure that you have a seat at the table for those different contracting opportunities. The last thing is that I hope that you will seize opportunities that come up. Just because it is a contract with the government doesn't mean that it is too complicated, and it is something that you can bid on, that your business can qualify for. If you are not sure about the qualifications or how to do business with different branches of government, reach out to the certification specialist that you're working with. If we aren't the branch that's offering the contract, we can tell you who to talk to in order to find those opportunities. So apply for certification, work through the process, and then put in for the contracts to help you build your business to that next level. And welcome to government contracting.
Thank you, Daniel. This has been extremely informative.